Hey everyone, you're in session with the hypnotist. Today we're going to talk about MIDI and some features of MIDI in Logic. I'm working on the Canadian artist Husband Material's debut single Autumn Leaves. I am mixing the project, and as you can see here, Husband Material has used some of Logic's excellent session players for some cool ideas in the song. We need to edit these performances, and we're going to start by converting these session player tracks into MIDI data so we can manipulate every single note to exactly where we want. So there's two ways of doing this. You can right click and go down to convert, which is the 11th option down, and then at the very big end of the convert menu you have convert to MIDI region, or the shortcut, which I always prefer, which is Control, Option, Command and M. So I'm going to do that. Shortcut, bam, now they're all MIDI notes. So in order to open the MIDI files, we need to either double click, let's pick this one, because it has chords. We're going to either double click on it like this, or we're going to press the shortcut E. E opens the edit window for any file. Again, the same thing. Or P, which is the shortcut to bring up the piano MIDI roll, which in this case is the same thing as the edit file. You can see in the edit file you have piano roll, score, which is the score notation of it, and smart tempo. Smart tempo really only applies to, it can apply to MIDI. It applies to audio and MIDI. For now, we're going to focus on the piano roll. Fit the chords to the screen if they're not already, using the zoom sliders up here in this corner, or a mouse wheel, or pinching gestures on your trackpad. Now you can change the velocity of these notes. The velocity is the volume of the notes. It's how hard the notes are being struck by whatever it is playing, whatever the MIDI notes are playing. So let's change the velocity. We're going to press Command A to select all the MIDI notes. Then we're going to go here to the velocity slider and bring it up. As you can see, when we're bringing it up, the relative volumes are being maintained. And it will only go to that volume here, as those are the lower volumes. I'm going to undo that. Now, if you want to match the velocity of all the notes, if you want every single note to be the exact same volume, you hold the Option key and then come back to the velocity slider, click and drag, and you can see you have to take it all the way to the top, and then they turn to all the same value, and then from there you can move it to whatever other value you want, or keep it at maximum value if that's what you want. I'm going to undo that again, which by the way is Control Z. If you wanted to transpose the chords in the MIDI section, there's 3 different ways you can do that. One of the first ways you can do that is click on one of the MIDI notes and drag it either up or down to whatever key you see or desire here. If you hadn't selected all of your notes, you would have to press Command A to select all the notes, but as they are already selected, let's just pick our root note, which in this case is G, as the first chord is a G minus 7, and move it to another key. Let's move it to C. We're going to move it up. Now it's C minus 7. So that's one of the first ways of doing it. I'm going to undo that. There's another way of doing it here by using the transpose function in the region inspector. The region inspector is this entire track over here on the left. On the left of the screen. You can get the region inspector up by pressing this icon here. That gets rid of it. That brings it back. Also, I'm now pressing the shortcut I. The shortcut I brings it up and gets rid of it. So there it is. I'm going to press I. It's gone. Or we use this. So this is the region inspector. I'm going to click here to bring up the drop-down menu of the region inspector. We have a few other options here for the MIDI. So this is where you can transpose them. You can transpose it up or down in degrees of semitones. So I'm going to, this is quite specific. You don't click the word transpose. You have to click in this gray box here between transpose and these arrows, but not up in either of those two boxes around it. So I'm going to click right in the middle. I'm going to hold and then drag up and down. Now you can see it's moving up 4 semitones, 5 semitones, whatever you want. You know, go back down, whatever you like. You can drag it a ridiculous amount. That is handy if you want to do it quickly like that. So that's another way of doing it. I'm going to undo that. And then the final way of doing it, which is one of my favorite ways, because you can do it quite rapidly. Once again, you have to select all the MIDI notes, and then you press Option. You hold Option, and you use the arrow up and down keys to move it up or down semitones. So you can do this really quickly. I particularly like this one because I don't have to come over here and click and drag transpose. I can just hold 2 keys and rapidly tap the up or down key to the exact location that I want. I'm going to undo that. So you can transpose the chords up or down octaves. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more just so we can see a few more octaves. So once again, select all the MIDI notes, Command A, and then you're going to use, there's 3 ways again, same as moving to another key. The first way is, of course, to click on one of the MIDI notes and move it to the octave above. So from this G here, we're going to move it to the higher G. And same thing, you can move it down. And undo that. You can, of course, again, go up to transpose. Another thing you can do here is you can double click here and enter the number you want, which is quite fast. If you know the number, you can just go straight there. So I double click there. It brings up the screen with this blue blocks. I'm going to type in 12 on the keyboard. Bam, up 12. I often do that with transpose rather than clicking or dragging because it's very quick and direct like that. I'm going to undo that. And then the final way, which is a keyboard shortcut way, once again, my absolute favorite, because it's the most economical and super efficient, even more so than going up to transpose, because all you need to do is hold Option and a Shift key, and then use an arrow up or down key, and you're in octaves up or down quickly like this. So super handy on the shortcuts. Always recommend the shortcuts. So I think one of your questions asked if you could adjust the MIDI to a new set of chords of another reference MIDI. So for example, you have this MIDI set of chords that you want this MIDI that I now have here to conform to. Unfortunately, Logic doesn't do that. It doesn't change the chords that are already programmed on its own. You'll have to do it manually. I don't know of actually any software that does that, but I could be wrong because there's a lot of software. So you'd have to do it manually to fit your other MIDI. So what I would do is import your other MIDI file, and you can click E or P to open the file and inspect it, what the chords are, and then come back into this file and adjust the chords to that file, to the new MIDI file. So manually correcting it is just, we're going to unselect all the notes. So if you have it selected, you just click somewhere up here and it unselects, or you click somewhere that's not a note basically, and it unselects. Now imagine we want, the first chord is G minus 7. You want it to be F sharp major 9. So this is the root G, we're going to move it to F sharp. And then we're going to make the minor, which is A, into major, A sharp. And we want a 9th. So there's E, 7th. Now I'm going to just create a 9th. A 9th is G sharp. So I'm going to add it down here, maybe. That's just hypothetical. I mean, it's not great voice leading to just plonk it in the middle there with nothing else following. But you understand what I'm saying if you want that chord. I mean, if you truly wanted the 9th, I'd probably put it above it, because that would sound quite nice. But then you would change the melody of the top of the chords. I actually think that would be a better melody, but that's just me looking at it. Looks like a nice contour. So that's how you're going to have to do it. Let's go back and undo that. Oh, sorry. I've made everything come on screen. Now, the last two things I want to show you, I'm going to quantize all the notes. Again, either up here in the region inspector on the very far left, or right here in this one's actual piano roll effect. So I usually do this one, it's closer. Command A to select all the notes. We pick the quantize that we want. 16th notes, quantize it to every semiquaver. What quantize means is it snaps the MIDI notes exactly to the grid, which can be very handy if you want strict sounds or sounds like this. So you snapped it to 16 is good. You could go more divisions if you have more notes. I often use 16 because I think semiquavers are nice to edit. If you're using triplets, you can use one of these. Swing applies a groove where each offbeat semiquaver is played a tiny bit off the grid to give it a more human feel. I would only swing some elements and stick to rhythmic elements mainly. And if you're going to swing one element in your song a specific amount, I would swing all of the other elements that same amount, so it doesn't sound like they're playing different swings and songs and grooves. You want a unified groove, especially for a song. So it's found here too. You could see there, swing A, that just brings the swing to semiquavers, offbeat semiquavers. And you have all sorts of strange combinations, one-on-one, tuplets, triplets. You know, Logic is pretty comprehensive. Once again, I'm usually using A, B. The letters A to F basically mean the more off the grid the swing is, the offbeat semiquavers are. So A is the closest to the grid and F is the furthest away, so the laziest groove. However, the main beats are still going to be perfectly on the grid, so you know, it might be fun to play with. And that's everything. Some handy tips for MIDI today.